Business owners, public servants, impact-minded leaders, and other corporate hippies. Do you want to make a bigger impact in your world, but your words let you down? Perhaps you ramble, perhaps you lose your words altogether, or perhaps you go down those rabbit holes. Well, inside my Impact Club, members like you get access to monthly coaching calls and always on coaching platform where you can ask feedback, get advice, and find those words so that you can make the impact that you want to make in the world. Check out my Impact Club. The link is in the show notes. Welcome. Welcome to Speaking with Confidence, the podcast, the show that coaches you, impact-minded humans, humble leaders and other corporate hippies, how to speak with confidence, authenticity, and impact. Yes, my name is Kat Matson and it is lovely to be here with you again. Thank you for tuning in for another episode. I'm always, I wish I could see you. I wish I could see you. Whether you're watching or listening, how are you today? And I wish you could kind of just quickly let me know. You always could. If you're watching or listening on Spotify, then of course you can leave a comment below this episode and you can reach out to me on Instagram. Simply find me at Kat Matson, that's cat with a C, meow, and let me know. How are you today? Today I'm talking about one of the biggest fears that my clients come to me with, that, you know, people fear public speaking more than they fear death sometimes. And I get it. Whilst personally that hasn't been my experience, give me a microphone, give me a stage, and I'm a pretty happy camper, I understand the anxiety that comes with it. And in fact, I've worked with quite a few private clients in the last few months who have had that debilitating fear of public speaking. And this question came up in a recent group coaching call where my client said, I was literally on a stage. I was there to talk about my experience. And when I was introduced, I froze. I just froze. And the host of the event asked me again, and I still froze. And I don't want that to happen again. And this lady needed to do this kind of event multiple times. So if that's you, if you have had that experience of freezing when it was your turn to speak, or if that's what you're concerned about, in today's episode, I want to take you through a few tips on how to not freeze, or if you feel that freeze inclination coming up, how you can get through it and get on with what it is that you want to say. So freezing. Freezing in this context is part of our nervous system response, right? We have fight, flight, or freeze. Now, think about what's going on in this moment when your body is enacting this fight, flight, or freeze response. It's a nervous system response. And our nervous system kicks in this way when it thinks we're under threat. Our nervous system kicks in this way when it thinks we're under threat. It's doing its job, which is protecting ourselves. Now, your nervous system does not know the difference between a real threat, like being chased by a tiger, or a perceived threat, like speaking on stage in front of people and perhaps, I don't know, what's the threat there? The threat there is that we feel like we're about to make a fool of ourselves. We might say something wrong. We might look stupid or silly in front of our peers. That's the perceived threat. But our nervous system cannot tell the difference between that real threat of I'm being chased by a tiger and I'm in, my life is in danger, or this fear of emotional or mental repercussions. So before we get into that perception of the fear, let's understand how we can manage our nervous system. If our nervous system is freezing because it's trying to protect us, we need to give it some signals that we're okay. One of those signals is breathing. I know, this sounds so ridiculously simple, and it works. If you're breathing deeply, if you are pausing and slowing down your breathing, if you are breathing deep into the pit of your lungs, expanding your belly and then letting it contract as you exhale, then you are signaling to your nervous system, maybe I'm not under threat here. Because, of course, when you're under threat, all of those hormones are kicking in to go, get ready to run, get ready to move. And so our breathing moves up to our chest. We're actually trying to conserve oxygen and we're getting ready to burst. So if you can signal to your body, actually, I'm okay, by slowing down your breathing, then it can be a very, very powerful way to manage that freeze inclination. If you're a yogi, if you practice yoga, then you will be familiar with box breathing. Now, I practice yoga, but I'm not a great yoga teacher, I've got to say. But from a box breathing perspective, what you're doing is you are almost painting the picture of a box, 4 equal sides, with your inhales, with pauses, with your exhales, and then with another pause. So, for example, if you're nervous, you're about to take a stage and you can feel everything heating up, then you might just want to breathe in for the count of 4, hold your breath for the count of 4, exhale for the count of 4, and then hold again for another count of 4. And just do that. Bring that rhythm into your breathing, deep belly breathing, and that will help to calm your nervous system. Another signal that will help with that autonomic response, which is what is going on when your nervous system is so activated that you kick into this fight, flight, or freeze response. Plant your feet. Plant both feet securely, stably, hip width apart on the ground. Again, this signals to your body, I am safe. I am bigger than this tiger, this threat, this thing, and I can take it on. Now, just think about this for a moment. One of the things that often happens when we're nervous and we're speaking is, what do? We pace. We pace across the stage. We rock from one foot to the other. Sometimes we even cross our legs in front of us, and it's almost like a protection mechanism. We kind of shrink ourselves. Again, all of these movements actually amplify the messages that are going to our nervous system saying, I'm under threat, I'm getting ready to run, I'm getting ready to move, I'm getting ready to go. And so by planting your feet, you're actually signaling to your body, I'm safe, I'm okay. So there's some signals to your nervous system. Another signal is, of course, your internal dialogue. So when you're about to take a stage, you're not being chased by a tiger. And so the perception of fear is coming from what? It is coming from your thoughts. It's coming from your internal dialogue. It is coming from the stories that you are telling yourself about what's about to happen. And so you can address that internal dialogue. So as it's going nuts and it's saying you're about to make a fool of yourself, Kat, you're about to fall over, you never get, like, these people aren't ever going to want to listen to you again. Who do you think you are to have this conversation? You can just say, thank you. I get that that's what you're worried about. I don't need to be an expert. I just need to share my knowledge. I'm here to be of service. I'm here to help people. I do know what I'm talking about in this regard. If I didn't, I wouldn't be here. I don't have to have all the answers. And the worst thing that's going to happen is maybe I fumble over a few of my words. But they're not going to throw rotten tomatoes at me. Nobody's going to be nasty, because that's not how people work, not in these environments. It's okay. So you can have this conversation. If you need to say it out loud, go outside, find the green room, go somewhere and have this conversation with yourself. Be louder than your internal dialogue. If you can't go outside, you can just have that conversation with your internal dialogue, and just like you would a parent. a compassionate, kind parent. Because let's face it, for some of us, that internal dialogue is our parental injunctive parents, the parents telling us that we're not good enough, that we need to work harder, all those kind of things. So I'm looking for the compassionate parent here, the reassuring parent who is taking care of you when you've hurt yourself or when you're worried. And so you can just have that compassionate, kind, reassuring conversation with yourself and change that internal dialogue. One of the other things that I talk about a lot as a strategy for managing this is to have a standard start. And when it comes to this woman who I talked about at the very start of this episode, this was actually the piece that landed for her because, we went through all of those techniques. She said, I know, Kat, I'm really good at managing my nervous system. That's one of the things that I do. I understand nervous system regulation and I still froze. And I said, okay, here's the next technique then. And that is to have a standard start. Have the first few minutes of your presentation, of your speech, down pat. Now, I don't mean memorized word for word, but know what you're going to say. Now, if you have listened to more than a few episodes of this podcast, you have possibly heard me talk about my Earn the Right framework for this. I now refer to it as my I Am story framework. So Earn the Right, I Am story, both the same things. And your standard start is a known story, a known opening, a known series of statements that even when you are freaking out, even when you wish the stage was about to open up and swallow you whole, you can remember these elements. Now, your I am story starts with something that even when you are freaking out, you actually know, and it is your name. Hi, I'm Kat. Then you talk about what you do and a little bit why you do it. And then you talk about a couple of stories that give credibility, that give authority, that not only let your audience know why what you're about to say is worth listening to, it's a reminder to you, oh yeah, that's right, I do have something to say here, whether it's lived experience, whether it's expertise, I'm allowed to be on this stage. If you want to hear more about the Earn the Right or the I Am story framework and this standard start, then listen to episode 7, which is called Overcoming Why Me, How I Manage Imposter Syndrome. Or if you want a real deep dive into this framework, episode 33 is a special recording of one of my online Speaking with Impact workshops. And we spent a good 20 minutes diving deep into this particular framework. But the essence is it's a standard start. It is something that you just know. You just know. And so even when you're freaking out, you can simply say, as you've just heard, my name is Kat and I'm here today to talk about whatever it is. So I'll pop the link to those show notes. I'll pop the link to those other episodes in the show notes. Episode 7, Overcoming Why Me, How I Manage Imposter Syndrome, and episode 33, my Speaking with Impact workshop. So they are my top tips for managing that, oh my goodness, I'm going to freeze response. Remember, it's a nervous system response. It's a nervous system response, and your nervous system is kicking in because it believes you are under threat. So the more you can do to signal that you are not under threat, then the less that response, the less that freeze response will kick in. And particularly once you've got that standard start done and once you do start speaking, again, that's another signal to your mind of, oh, look at that, we're okay. We're okay. If you would like to work on this more, this is actually one of the things that we do very often in my Impact Club. In the Impact Club, like-minded people just like you who want to make a bigger dent in their universe come together to work on their speaking skills, to work on their long-term influence strategy, and to work on their I am stories. So you can get comfortable with your standard start, comfortable with your brag bag stories, comfortable with claiming credibility without sounding like a wanker. So the link to the Impact Club is below. We get together in group coaching calls twice a month, and you have access to an always on coaching platform where you can ask me any question about anything to do with speaking, communication, and influence, and you get a response. It's pretty awesome. I got to say, it's pretty awesome. So check out the Impact Club below. That is it for this little quick ditty of a podcast episode. Next episode, next week, I am talking about how to establish credibility without sounding too boastful. Yep. How to establish credibility without sounding like a wanker. So tune in for that one next week. In the meantime, thanks again for tuning in. Here's to confidence. Here's to impact. And I'll see you really soon.